Let's talk money.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Money, your weekly stop for all of your personal finance queries. I'm your host, Surabhi Upadhyaya. Now, the focus on the show today is the basics of money management. Money management and financial housekeeping rules that we often don't think about or tend to ignore. But these are rules that are extremely critical in ensuring that you remain on the road to wealth creation and don't skid off it. Well, on the show, we'll also give you some tips on how you can get your finances in order if they are not in that shape. Joining me on the show today is Nasser Salim, Managing Partner at FlexiCapital. Nasser, great to have you with us in the studios. Nasser's come all the way from New Delhi. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Surabhi. Wonderful to be here in Mumbai, the studio.
You know, we spend so much time talking about returns and the right fund and whether this is 20 basis points up or, 50 basis points down. But I thought it's also important to take a step back and just do your overall planning and get your, your house in order, so to speak. So I know that you've drawn up a checklist. You've drawn up a 5-point action plan for us. Yes. So let's start by doing this. I mean, you do this for clients all the time. What are your thoughts? Are people well sorted when it comes to these things?
You know, Surabhi, basics is something which needs to be set at the go, right? As you said, investment management, styles, fund managers, all of those are, you have enough people helping you, giving you enough guidance. But I think some of the basic things needs to start right from the beginning. And that's where, we've kind of prepared these 5 pointers. I think one of the most important things, Surabhi, is importance of cash flows, right?
Okay.
We all have cash access, whether it's in the account, it's in the bank balances, it's in hard currency. But do you have a plan on that cash flow?
Yeah.
I think that is something which is very, very important. Of course, the other 4 we will discuss.
We'll go over it as we go forward. The thing is, and especially in today's world, I think a lot of people are so focused on earning that capital, earning those finances, and then it's very piecemeal. Sometimes you'll remember, there's one fund that you need to get rid of, or you suddenly remember one life insurance policy that needs to be renewed or not renewed. But I think we need a holistic view. So before we get to the individual elements, just lay out that 5-point action plan that we must remember.
So, clearly, it starts with obviously the importance of cash flows.
Cash flows.
There is an importance of making a contingency fund, which is for an emergency purpose, which can happen anytime.
Sure.
Then there is something called, you need to plan for unforeseen circumstances.
Okay, planning for the
unforeseen. I mean, we don't
unexpected.
know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then there's something called make a smart plan, which is basically what we spoke about in
the
terms
investments.
of the investments piece.
Okay.
Right. And last not the least, of course, is a very, very important plan in wealth, and that all the money that you've accumulated over the years, so it'll be a succession plan.
Right.
Do you have a plan around that?
Right.
So I think these are most 5 important aspects.
5 pillars,
5 pillars
of our
absolutely.
Financial management. Let me try and remember them myself as we go along. So number 1 is knowing your cash flows and managing them. Number 2 is creating a contingency buffer. I forgot the third. Help me out here, Nasser.
The third one is cover unforeseen liabilities.
Covering your unforeseen liabilities. Then, of course, smart investing. We all want to make sure our investments are smart. And last but not the least, making sure that we have a succession plan in place.
Absolutely.
These are the 5 pillars we need to understand. We have about 20 minutes. You start with the first one.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you again. So importance of cash flow, Surabhi, is, it begins first is what is the currency that you have in hand, which is hard cash, right? And, people say, we should always have hard currency lying in your accounts, at your home or in your lockers. But look, the basic concept of keeping cash in your house, it lacks 2 very important things. One, it's not inflation adjusted. You have 100,000 rupees today, 1 lakh. Next year, that same 1 lakh actually depreciates to 94,000.
Correct.
Because there's something called inflation, which is eating into it.
Absolutely.
So one is it's not inflation adjusted. Number 2, peer pressure, Surabhi. FOMO or YOLO. Today's, we have these new terms which have come up. And, you have impulsive purchases happening on account of cash which is lying available to you. I think, so our point is, please keep cash, but restrict it to not more than 25% of your monthly expenses, if at all. If at all. Right? And that can again be kept as a buffer only. Right? The other 2 quick points in terms of management of cash flow, Surabhi, is It's very, very simple. Please maintain 2 separate bank accounts.
Okay.
One, which is investment and your income. So it's actually income and investment is one pool.
Okay.
The second pool is obviously your expenditure account.
Okay.
Now, why we've set out these two differences?
When you say to maintain 2 separate accounts, do you mean to say as in terms of accounting, or are you saying that have 2 different bank accounts?
In 2 separate bank accounts.
Okay, and explain to us why that's
Yes,
important.
I'll tell you why.
Okay.
So one is when you get a separate bank account in terms of your receipts or your
Which
income.
is where your income is coming in, your salary is coming in.
Salary is coming in, your rental income is coming in,
Right.
consultancy fees is coming in, whatever, in whichever nature.
Yeah.
That gives you a very close view of your income which is coming in. And then with that, you can actually start to see how much is available for investing. So what I'm saying is move both those heads in one bank account.
So all the investments will go from that particular account,
Absolutely.
whatever your SIPs are doing, or whatever your your investments are.
Absolutely.
Okay, and your expenses from a different account.
Different bank account altogether.
Why so?
So 2 fundamental reasons. Number 1, you need to keep a tab of how much money is going month on month.
So you'll know how much you're moving from that
Exactly.
income account, that big number that you'll move once every month.
Absolutely.
And you'll know, oh God, I've actually moved more money this time. So
Absolutely.
it's an at a glance sort of.
At a glance,
I got my answer.
Yeah. So one is that it just gives you more discipline, frankly.
Okay.
Right? Number 1. Number 2, I think in terms of consistency, also after 6 months or 3 months, when you look back at your expenditure statement, it also can give you an average number that you're spending every month.
Yeah.
So you can plan better.
Right.
Right? And if you have to actually cut down your expenses or maybe spend more, it gives you a better idea.
Sure.
So I think these 3 fundamental points is what gets us to the importance of cash flows. If you do this really well, it's all very simple. And one more point which I must tell you, Surbhi, that also helps you from your taxation perspective.
Okay.
You see, when you're looking at your capital gains, for example, which is or certain taxes that you need to be paid out, everything from your investment account is available in that particular different account.
Right.
You're not going through multiple bank statements.
Through a lot of the
you don't have to clearly absolutely.
Yeah.
So those are also a bit of a hygiene that comes in when you maintain these 2 separate heads.
Never thought of that, but yeah, it seems to make a lot of sense. Okay, so that's number 1.
Yeah.
Understanding our cash flows and managing them. Perhaps your suggestion is to do that through 2 different bank accounts. That's number 1. Let's come to number 2, which is building a contingency fund.
Yes, we call it the Contingency or Emergency Fund. This is a very, very important tool in my opinion when you're looking at money management. Surbhi, this is basically to say that, look, if you're out of a job, we had a scenario like COVID that happened a few years ago. What if you have a black swan event?
Yeah.
And you get no more income? And assuming this remains for about 3 to 6 months, what do you do then? Will you be actually redeeming some of your good, best performing funds, good allocations, or would you be rather have that pool of money available to you?
Sure.
At short notices? So our mantra in this is very, very simple: is keep 6 to 9 months of your monthly expenses, which does not include your investments.
Yeah.
So basically, if I'm making a lakh a month, and if I'm spending say 40,000 rupees,
right?
So 40,000 into 6 is 2,40,000.
Sure.
That should be available to me on call or at call.
And where would you park this cash? In what sort of an instrument? Liquid
So
funds?
ideally,
what
it will be for better tax-adjusted returns. We have something called the Arbitrage today as a category of funds, which is available to you at lower risk and ideally suitable for investors beyond 1 month of holding period. So that's something which can be considered. And a combination of this, it can also be overnight or liquid funds, popularly, which we all are aware of. And they can be used because this is all money which is callable within 24 to 48 hours.
So when you said arbitrage funds are more tax efficient, because if you put them in a bank account, at the end of the day, you'll have to keep paying tax on the interest that's accruing. So just explain to us why arbitrage might be a better route.
Arbitrage basically as a category comes under a taxation under equity as an asset class.
Okay.
And when you have that, short-term capital gain is only 15%.
Right.
And long-term is 10%.
Correct.
As against interest income or money that you've left in your bank account, savings bank account, that accrues.
And you might have to pay 20%, 30%.
That's as per your marginal taxation slab.
Yeah.
So it could be, as high as 33%.
Okay.
Right? Or even 39% for people who are in the ultra HNI.
In the ultra HNI bracket.
Absolutely. So it's always advisable, recommended to be putting this money in overnight stroke arbitrage. Arbitrage is for better tax-adjusted returns. So simply, Surbhi, if you're not in the highest taxation bracket, look at an overnight or a, or a liquid fund.
Got it.
But, otherwise, if you're in a heavy tax bracket, look at the arbitrage as an option.
Got it. Let's quickly move to number 3, which is, preparing for an unforeseen event or preparing for an event that you hadn't planned for.
Absolutely. So 2 things paramount to this point. One is medical, which is illness, God forbid. Number 2 is untimely death. Both are unfortunately, or mortality, both are unfortunately very, very serious issues.
Yeah.
And that's why we use the word unforeseen here, Surbhi.
Yeah.
When we talk about medical, I think one of the biggest estimates, and this is all over public reports, are suggesting that medical inflation eats away into your major part of your savings. So how does one kind of address that? There are very interesting plans available. IRD is pushing manufacturers today to take those, get you those great plans.
Yeah.
Speak to experts, do a medical cover.
Yeah.
A medical cover today is available with maternity benefits.
Yeah.
There are certain other benefits that come in. You should be exploring those, talking to the experts. There's a concept called a family floater versus a non-family floater. If you're a main member of the person in the family earning, use a family floater plan. Get your wife, children, parents as well can be included in that family floater, and it works beautifully in case of any emergency.
So that's on health insurance. Just basic, because we're not getting to the details. So these are each of them are individual
subjects.
Now, life insurance, we know that term plans are recommended. I mean, they are the pure coverage that we get. Is there any rule of thumb? I mean, how much of a term cover to get? How do you answer that question when clients ask you?
So a very interesting question again, Surbhi. I think the thumb rule on a pure term plan is 10 times your annual income.
Okay.
Basically, that's the cover that you need to get. So if your income is assuming 10 lakhs, you should take a cover of 1 crore. This is 10 times your annual net income, basically post-taxes and everything. Right? So that's the broad cover that one goes with. Yeah.
Got that. And let's come to point number 5 now. Actually, point number 4, which is smart investing, without getting into too much detail because we spend a lot of time talking about investing, but just in terms of the hygiene rules here.
So, smart in this case is not smart. It's actually smart, but it comes in with an acronym as well. So smart in this case is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Okay.
So I'll give you a small example, Surbhi. Somebody who's earning, say, 1 crore, may one fine day get up in the morning and say, I want to buy an airplane for 100 crores. It's a great plan. It's a good idea. And then he says that I want to buy it in the next 3 months. So it's a good thought.
Yeah, but is it achievable? Is it realistic, measurable?
Time-bound, so that's why, the relevance of this.
Sure.
And I think the point is very, very simple. Surbhi, when you're looking at your investment plan, obviously under guidance from an expert, you should have buckets.
Yeah.
Right? We believe that bucket system is very, very simple. It should be based on time horizon. So your first bucket, ideally, from a quadrant perspective, first quadrant is ideally up to 1 year. Then you move to up to 3 years. Then the third quadrant is up to 5 years, and then it's up to 10 years.
And you put your goals in these.
And you put your goals, and then you check which is the most suitable option or the suitable products available to you to get to those goals.
Sure.
Right? Sure. And simply put, for example, real estate can't be in 3 to 5 years. It has to be 10 years and above.
Well, what if I want to buy a house in the next 3 years? Then it goes in the 3-year bucket?
Then it goes into 3-year bucket, absolutely.
Then I have to plan accordingly.
And you have to plan accordingly, absolutely.
Got it.
Because the drawdown will happen in 3 years from now.
That's true.
Right? So I think the idea, the entire perspective is to ensure that you have clarity in terms of which buckets you need to create for which life goals.
Sure.
And that's the basic idea behind that.
The last point, which is, thinking about succession, this is a thought that, probably never crosses people's mind till they're reaching retirement age, but life can be very unpredictable. Absolutely. So explain to us why this is extremely important.
So, Surbhi, again, we create wealth. Over the years, we work hard, and obviously there is a time to go, unfortunately. And then there is something called intergenerational wealth transfer. Yeah. It's very, very important. And we need to kind of have those discussions and conversations. Yeah. I think it starts from the basics as getting your nominations in place of all your financial assets, financial liquid assets. Nominations have to be done. That's the first and foremost.
Yeah.
Because what if you go one day?
Yeah.
I mean, the money needs to ensure that it reaches your class 1 heirs or the people that you wish to, give to. Nomination, wills is something which follows that. It's very, very important. And a will should be registered in our opinion. So, speak to an expert, your legal team, ask them, they'll ask you. It's a very simple process. It's not very cumbersome. And then there's another very interesting concept, Surbhi, which I'd like to talk about, is something called a living will.
Okay.
This is something which is now gaining a lot of prominence amongst clients in India. And a living will is different from a will. A will we all know,
right?
But a living will is something when end of life is imminent.
Okay.
When you are, God forbid, in a vegetative state. So let's take an example, Surbhi. Somebody, God forbid, has got a hemorrhage. There's a chance of 2% recovery. 98% he will be in a vegetative state.
Right.
A living will will ensure, in this case, that the medical personnel who are dealing with him,
right,
when he's on the ventilator or doing whatever, when he's completely bedridden, they will not perform any heroic measures or something extraordinary to extend their life, to extend his life, basically.
Okay.
And this is when it's an advanced directive, to say the least, to tell the medical team that, look, if, God forbid, if I'm in a vegetative state, remove me off all support.
But this has nothing to do with financial sort of assets being transferred then?
No, it's got nothing to do with financial assets.
Okay.
This is just, it's something which is gaining prominence. But the only aspect here is that, look, if you continue to be like that, God forbid, it'll eat up into a lot of your savings. So somewhere it is connected, right? It is. I mean, it is part of the financial plan.
True.
That's why it's gaining a lot of prominence today. So that's another thing I thought that we should kind of bring that on the table.
Important to sort of know these things and keep them at the back of our minds. We do have to take a very quick break. We've gone on for a good bit. We have some questions coming up, especially on succession planning from our viewers. So we'll take that break and come right back with it.
Let's talk money